Hi, I'm Megan.
And I'm Neil.
And we've packed up our home in Glasgow and moved into our cute retro camper van Harmony to travel all over Scotland, exploring the best places to stand up paddle along the way. So come join our adventure as we visit the Highlands, Islands and everywhere in between on our
SUP
Safari Scotland! Hello Orkney!
Yay! I love Orkney too.
Back on Orkney's mainland, we have a chilled out couple of days checking out the island while the 43 km/h wind subsided. We revisit Evie Beach, where we paddled on a previous trip to Orkney, which is also a great place for an overnight stop. The Orphir round church was built in the early 1100s and is just next to the Orkneyinga Saga centre. The Orkneyinga Saga was written about 1200 and talks about the Viking Earls of Orkney. St Magnus Cathedral is one of Scotland's most interesting cathedrals and dates back to the early 1100s. It was built by Earl Rognvald Brusason to honour his martyred uncle Magnus Erlendsson, whose remains are interred within. The Earls Palace was built in the 1600s by Earl Patrick Stewart. The palace was never finished as the Earl ran out of money. It's a really beautiful ruin and you can almost imagine what it was intended to look like as you wander through it.
We have just been for a paddle at the Churchill barriers near Scapa Flow. So in a nutshell, there's the barrier there and then there's this sunken ship. The reason the barrier and the sunken ship is there is because in both World War I and World War II, Scapa Flow was the main northern base for the British naval fleet, and it was quite vulnerable because there's multiple ways to get into Scapa Flow, which meant that U-boats could come in and torpedo ships. The sunken ships are there because before the barriers were put in place, they sunk old ships to put a blockade against U-boats coming through, and then eventually after the sinking of the Royal Oak, they created the Churchill barriers, which link up the islands of South Ronaldsay to the mainland and create a barrier along the eastern side of Orkney, which you can now drive upon.
At first glance, water with rusty metal probably doesn't look like the smartest place to take an inflatable paddleboard, but the water is really clear and you'll notice us paddling very cautiously. We paddled up towards the next barrier where there were some more wrecks.
Is it too thick to paddle through, or we should try and paddle around?
The wind was picking up, there was a heap of seaweed to navigate, and the culverts appeared to be starting to flow, so we paddled back to Harmony. One of the things we were really excited to see was the Ring of Brodgar dig, which is open to the public. Things were a little quieter than usual on the dig due to funding, but about 30 or so archaeologists were actively excavating the site during our visit. The Ring of Brodgar is on a narrow piece of land between the standing stones of Stenness and the Ring of Brodgar. And what is truly amazing to me is that years ago, on my first visit to Orkney, I walked right by this site and, like the rest of the world at that time, had absolutely no idea what lay beneath my feet. Just makes you wonder what else is hidden below the Earth's surface. This site is understood to be of huge importance in the Neolithic era, with its large wall, a main building, and possibly another 100 structures. Some of these are actually painted too. The Ring of Brodgar is the UK's third largest stone circle and has a sense of magical mystery about it. Nestled on a hillside amongst a thick crop of heather, it is surrounded by a henge or ditch and inaccessible to visitors. What I find truly amazing is that if you look at the site from a satellite image, you can see just how perfectly round the circle is. The Ring of Brodgar was built around 2500 to 2000 BCE. And only 21 of the original 60 stones are still standing. We're on Orkney's mainland still, about to go in for another paddle. Been waiting for it to be nice and sunny like this. Had some sunny-ish spells, but crazy wind, 42 km/h I think it was when we first got here. But today has turned out to be quite a nice looking day, so we're going to go into this loch here behind me because it's in a really special location. So just down along the road from us here is the Ring of Brodgar stone circle, which is a World UNESCO Heritage Site. So this whole area is almost a little bit like Peru's Sacred Valley as far as Orkney goes. There's so many historical sites here. We've got Maze Howe, we've got Standing Stones of Stenness, Ring of Brodgar, lots of other old monuments as well. So yeah, let's get into it. Some flora here. We go, Ring of Brodgar. How awesome is that? A bit twisted around in the wind. The standing stones of Stenness are thought to have been erected about 3,300 years BCE. Only 4 of the original 12 remain, with the tallest one measuring 5.7 metres. They have a real presence about them. Each one looks like a piece of artwork in an outdoor gallery. We're at Barnhouse Village, which is a 5,000-year-old cluster of houses near the standing stones of Stenness, uncovered in 1984, and it's believed that the people who lived here quite possibly were the ones who erected the standing stones of Stenness, which is just over behind us there. So this house is quite unusual in that it has two hearths, so one on this side, one on the other side, so maybe it was divided into two houses, two homes. If you want to see some more videos about mainland Orkney's top places to visit that we haven't covered in this video, you can check out our series on Orkney over at our other channel by clicking this link. Thanks for watching. If you'd love to keep the videos coming, you can support us by liking, subscribing, clicking notifications, and sharing with your paddleboarding mates. See you next week.